called this talk, Infinite Openings for Receiving Grace. And I have a short message about that. And it's interesting because it's as many times it happens, I start with one tack and I have an idea and I think I'm going to go one way and then I go a completely different way. That's okay because there's always a lot of inspiration in the world, and there's always another Sunday when I can go with more inspiration. Now, I was struck by something I saw online. On a website called Future Crunch. And just so you know, here's what Future Crunch is. We're a group of scientists, artists, technologists, and entrepreneurs that believe science and technology are creating a world that is more peaceful, transparent, and abundant. And we're determined to share that story. And that was really exciting to me. And then, and I thought I was going to talk about the 99 really pieces of good news they had on that website. And I will, in the upcoming weeks, talk about that. But something grabbed my attention in the same article. Okay? They were talking about, for the last 12 months, the global media has been focused on a lot of bad news. But there were other things happening out there too. Conservation successes, huge wins for global health, more peace and tolerance, less war and violence, rising living standards, some big clean energy milestones, and a quiet turning of the tide in the fight against plastic. Stories of human progress that didn't make it into the evening broadcast or into your own social media feed. So Future Crunch spent the year collecting them in their ongoing mission to stop the fear virus in its tracks. That's the phrase that just grabbed me. To stop the fear virus in its tracks. It has a lot to do with what we're doing today, releasing. And it really struck me because I know intellectually I have read many articles such as this. And I've shared some of them with you, that overall the world is really better off. There's so many statistics and ways that we're better off. And yet I know so many people who feel like, oh, things are terrible. They're just awful. I don't know what's going on with our country. I don't know what's going on with the world because of the fear virus. Don't worry, we have an antidote. Here's a story of Oxford Circus, which is I think it's a shopping center in England. This is an article by Angus Hervey. Angus is a political economist. I knew I could do that. And a journalist specializing in the impact of disruptive technologies on society. He was the founding community manager of Random Hacks of Kindness, a global initiative from Google, IBM, Microsoft, NASA, and the World Bank to create open source technology solutions to social challenges. He's also one of the people who is in Future Crunch, and the website I found this article in is called Medium. All right, so I'm reading his words for a while. A year ago, something terrible happened in London's Oxford Circus. It was just after peak hours on Friday, November 24th, 2017, and hundreds of thousands of people were in the city center to take advantage of the Black Friday sales. The problem started underground, and news passed quickly through the masses, sweeping up through the subway tunnels and into the streets. Alarm turned into panic, and panic became fear, and eventually outright terror, crackling like wildfire through the crowded streets. Within minutes, thousands of shoppers were stampeding, dropping their bags, dialing loved ones, and ducking low behind hastily barricaded department stores. Emergency services leapt into action, throwing up fencing and evicting crowds from nearby streets. The London Fire Brigade was called, while social media filled with rumors of gunshots and videos of screaming crowds fleeing the station entrance. A singer named Ollie Murs, locked inside Selfridges at the time, urged his more than 8 million Twitter followers to get out if any were inside. Mind you, he's locked inside, and he said, get out if you can. Londoners' worst fears had been confirmed. In a city primed for terror, it was a familiar feeling. Memories were fresh of attacks on Westminster Bridge, Parliament, on London Bridge, at Borough Market, and on the Tube at Parsons Green. As one onlooker described afterward, what went through my mind immediately was, it's Black Friday in Oxford Circus, in a city that's had incidents. And as I ran, I was too terrified to look back because I thought I would see a car heading toward us. Except there was no car. There was no incident. No terrorist attack, no bomb. An inquest later found that the whole thing had begun with a scuffle on the platform for the Central Line. Okay? So by scuffle, I guess a few people pushed or got into it. Just a little scuffle. If you've ever been on a subway, it's crowded. You can't see all the way. You see something happening. You don't know what's going on. The panic, chaos, speculation, and misinformation rippled out from there. Because the crowds had been packed in so tightly, nobody could see or hear what happened. Each person picked up on the fear of the person next to them. And it became scarier the farther it traveled from the center. In 2019, we're all in the same boat. We've become really good at identifying the bad things happening all around us. Every time we catch the fear virus, it leaves us more susceptible to the next outbreak. We're living like firefighters on call, constantly ready to put out the flames in our news alerts and on our social media feeds. The unrelenting messages of doom travel through the information superhighway in the same way the panic spread through the crowds at Oxford Circus, terrifying people, causing further panic, making everyone more likely to watch out for more trouble, and creating a permanent state of anxiety. Here's the real problem. By almost any measure, the world is becoming a better place. The large-scale evidence for this has already been well documented by people such as Max Roser, Steven Pinker, and the late great Hans Rosling. Poverty is disappearing. Battle deaths are falling. Violence is less common. Suicide is decreasing. Life expectancy is increasing. Literacy is on the rise. Child mortality is declining. We're making great strides in battling diseases like AIDS, cancer, and malaria. The internet has democratized information, education, and business. It's given voice to the silence, helped to erode outdated taboos, and advanced human rights. Of course, it's not all perfect, and there are always setbacks, but every day, the human species is making incredible progress. But there is something we can do. Don't let the fear virus get you. When the stories reach you, don't cough and pass them on. Every time you do that, you become another victim, infecting your friends, your family, and your followers. Make sure the fear virus stops when it reaches your doorstep. Instead of being a vector for stress and outrage, be a vector for optimism and progress. In the panic at Oxford Circus, it would have taken only a few hundred people to stem the tide by keeping calm and carrying on. Stop panicking. Reduce the anxiety of those around you. Give everyone the gift of time to think and evaluate, the opportunity to make better decisions. In all this, remember that every step we take is the mark of a species willing to challenge itself and press forward, seeking out wonder, identifying problems and solving them. We have the ability to look inward by looking outward. Take time to enjoy the successes and celebrate them. Kill the fear in its tracks. Replace it with new narratives about how our best natures can overcome our worst. How the goodwill, cooperation, and kindness of humans can overcome the wickedness, self-deception, and greed. The poison is also the cure. Now, the writer in this article, when he says the poison is also the cure, he's talking about social media, that the instant passing on. And the poison is also the cure. And their cure is their mission is to make social media different, to spread goodness, to spread love instead of fear. That's the mission. But the poison is also the cure for you and I personally today. As we figure out what we want to release, it is important to recognize that this universe is perfectly arranged. Every single thing, every single irritation, and every single joy is here for you and for me in order that I may evolve and that you may evolve to transform from the small self to a being that is the true self expressing as the unique creation that each one of us is and that each one of you are. Okay, Christ expressing as Mary R. Worthy. Buddha expressing as John T. Love. All that is expressing as Josephine Q. Truman. I take all this and it gives me great courage and great hope. I love that there's a group of people who are, by the way, in Australia, in Melbourne, who formed a company whose mission is to stop the fear virus. And I tell you what, somehow that is my mission too. And I just jumped on it. It is my mission too. It is our mission. As we at Unity Center here, where the leaders are getting together and figuring out how we want to move forward with a greater vision and mission, as we're doing those things, I know that we are a mighty voice, a mighty force for transformation. And I know that we're just starting. We already have been a place for peace and a place for self-reflection and a place for joy and celebration, and most Sundays and other days, a place for awesome singing and using the gift of music. But I see that we are about to become something more. On the very that message of the poison is also the cure. We're going to take what there is that seems as if it's poison, and we're going to transform it into the cure. And I do see that we are evolving into our use of social media. We're like, I was going to say like we're like babies, but basically I feel like we're like old people who are getting our 11-year-olds to tell us how to use Facebook. But we're getting better. And we are putting ourselves out there. When new people come here, most all of the time it is because they may have heard from somebody, but they check us out in our website or a meetup or Facebook. So this, believe it or not, everything is neutral. Or everything that's a tool is neutral. So we have the potential to use all of this for good. And think about how we are in this room. I know that everybody here, I just know it, that you have spent some time this past year having the thought, oh my God, what is happening to the world? Or what is happening to Des Moines or the US? I know that you've had that thought. Or my family, whatever it is, whatever. Or what the heck is happening to Unity Center of Des Moines? Whatever it is. And I know that all of us here and the people who aren't here now, but who come other times of the week, who are coming the next couple of Sundays, that all of us together, we're the power. Now, that's like my soapbox. And the last thing I want to talk about is grace. Grace, the endless opportunities for grace. Grace is one of my favorite things to talk about. It is the fact that the house is stacked in your favor. It's a gambling reference, because I know none of you gamble. If you were to go to Tahoe, the house is stacked in the favor of the people who own the gambling, right? But for us, the house is stacked in our favor because of grace. That means that when you show up with a little willingness, there is goodness and there is grace that lifts us up, that makes it better. So when we show up, there's always a boost. Okay? It's just such good news. That means when I wake up and I'm feeling a little crabby, if I stop just for a moment and allow a little bit of grace to come into my life, and sometimes it is just a matter of pausing, that I'm going to have a different kind of a day because I'm receiving the grace. So that's what this year is about. That's what all of this stuff is about for me. And what we're going to do today, Dan's going to light his thing he's going to light that beautiful fire machine. I don't know what to call it. What do we call it? It's a hot spot. Dan's going to light that. I'm going to give you directions. And then after you've spent a little time writing some things down, Hillary and her Myrmidians are going to hand out flash paper. Now, flash paper is tiny, so you're not going to be able to write paragraphs on it. So that's why I want you to take any of the notepads. If you don't have a notepad, someone will give you one, because most of the back seats of the chairs have notepads and writing implements. And then you'll have your piece of flash paper. So write first on the big piece of paper, because I'm going to lead us through an exercise, and then write on the flash paper. Also, don't be, and then Dan is actually going to show you how to work the flash paper, because it is magic, and it goes really fast. So here's the instructions for what I want you to do. I want you to think you're going to have about 5 minutes to 10 minutes, depending on how you're writing. Really, I want you to think about what fear looks like to you, okay? I want you to name fear, and I want you to write it down a little bit. For me, I started off with, what did I want to drop when I was thinking about this? I wrote down fear. Then I wrote down the thought of not enough. I wrote down change, so I don't think I need to tell you what you want to drop, but if you're worried, if you need ideas, come up and see me. Also, if you want to talk to somebody else, feel free to talk to somebody else. You've got to ask them if they want to talk first. But this can be a talking time, it can be a working out time, and I'm available if somebody wants a little poking. Ask Roland how good at poking I am. Took me to poke you.